Hello,
Welcome.
gosh, it's like magic. You all suddenly appear. Welcome, everybody. Please, while we're waiting for everyone to join, please pop in the chat where you're coming from. It's so exciting that we've got this global event.
This event is hosted by the lovely Catherine Lovewell, so I'm just going to introduce her and then I'll hand it over to Catherine in Qatar to lead us in this wonderful event. So Catherine Lovewell is the founder of Kind Mind Academy. She's an award-winning international speaker, best-selling author, and senior certified mindful self-compassion teacher. She's passionate about helping and empowering women and families and has dedicated her career to cultivating self-compassion, emotional resilience, and well-being worldwide. And as an ambassador for the Global Compassion Coalition's Compassion Champions Gathering, Catherine is committed to fostering a more compassionate and connected world. And through her pioneering programs, including the Booster Way and Compassionate Body, she inspires women to embrace their worth, nurture their inner kindness, and lead with confidence. So thank you so much, Catherine, for bringing us all together. It's really amazing. So thank you, and I'll hand it over to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you. We were saying just before we opened the doors, this really does mean a lot to me. I've always celebrated International Women's Day year after year in some form or another. And it's such a privilege to have this collaboration with the Global Compassion Coalition, reaching more women, well, more people around the world to really honour and celebrate International Women's Day. So thank you so much for being here. And if you are watching the recording, please know that you are warmly encouraged and welcome here too to fully participate, even if it is the recording you're looking at. And Rachel's just popped a question in there that Rachel might be able to answer. Rachel with an A. Will they be sent a recording of this, Rachel? Yes,
Yeah,
just wanted to check.
everyone will be sent. Yeah.
Lovely. So if you do have to slip away, don't worry. You'll get the you'll get this opportunity to catch up if you have to miss anything. Hopefully you'll stay. We won't frighten you away. Um, so today is all about you. That's exciting, isn't it? International Women's Day is a way in which we can honour and celebrate women around the world. So if you're a woman on this call, we are honouring you. And this call is meant to be an opportunity to come together and really dive deeply into what do we need. Now, the International Women's Day theme is Accelerate Action. When I was talking to the amazing Qatar, who I'll introduce formally in a moment, you know, we recognize that actually something has to happen before we accelerate action. And we're going to be diving deeply into that self inquiry and giving you lots of tools to take away to explore your inner leadership as well as leadership in your communities, in your home, in your work. So there's lots of things to cover, and I'm going to do my very best to keep to time so that we can cover everything that Qatar and I have planned. So our ultimate intention is to honour and have this wonderful coming together. We believe that when we come together, we're stronger. When we come together and share, especially our vulnerabilities, especially maybe those moments of struggle, then that helps all of us develop more courage and commitment to ourselves and to women in general. So, this is what we want to do. We want to energize, inspire, motivate, and of course, provide as many practical resources as we can to help you then take action in a compassionate and supportive way for yourself and your community. So, we want to provide this space that's a safe space for listening, for exploring, of companionship. And we really want you to feel as best we can in a digital environment that you know that you belong, that you know that your voice is welcome here. The chat will be open. I'll do some logistics a bit later for you to share your thoughts, maybe your ideas, some inspiration and insight. Um, this is your space, and we want you to feel really welcome and fully embraced as we explore this topic of resilience and leadership. So, how are we going to do this? Well, our central theme, when we look at, here we are, we're building wisdom and resilience for women's leadership. That's our title of our event. But ultimately, the core theme that we need to explore that really holds all of that is, of course, courage. And there's no better person, I think, that I've had the privilege to meet recently that can guide us and lead us, demonstrate, has really a powerful lived experience of being courageous. And that, of course, is Qatar. So we want to inspire that. And we're not talking about wearing a superwoman outfit. All right. We don't want capes on here. Um, I've tried to wear my cape many times and my undies on the outside. And let me tell you, it leads to burnout. It leads to exhaustion and frustration and lots of self judgment. That's been my experience anyway. We want to know that we can be strong, be leaders of our own lives, and maybe in the workplace, maybe in the community, without having to wear the cape. Does that make sense? I just want to sort of lay that sort of warm invitation. We don't have to be superwomen here to be amazing leaders in our world. Super duper. All right. I think, we know we have multiple complexities, multiple pressures as women, and we'll hopefully be able to unravel, unfold how we navigate all of those as we go through our 90 minutes together. So before I do any more chatting, I, of course, want to introduce you to our amazing guest speaker. She and I are going to have this incredible conversation and include you in our, I don't know, front room that we'll be all snuggled in together. Now, I had the privilege of meeting Qatar at one of the Compassion Champions events. So, as Rachel mentioned, I created Compassion Champions um, to bring a more human connection to all the founding members. And what's really exciting is that we'll be opening that up to everybody soon, which is very exciting. But the beauty of this particular gathering is that I have the pleasure and privilege to meet amazing humans from around the world. And so this is how I met Qatar. And it was one of those classic moments that, when you just click and just could have asked Qatar questions all night long. And the time zones weren't particularly kind for to stay up all night. But when you meet someone that is heart-centered, that is clearly a very powerful woman, that inspires you straight away. Of course, I immediately had to go and buy her book. Her book is called Unfolding Peace. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Um, and then, of course, I understood why I was so deeply drawn to spend more time with Qatar. So let me introduce you formally to this amazing woman that I hope I don't doubt will inspire you today. So Qatar is an award-winning conscious leadership coach and facilitator, consultant and mediator. And if any of you have tried to mediate any difficult situation, you'll know what an incredible skill that is. Her leadership framework supports leaders in creating change through her 4 levels of cultural transformation to create change in individuals, organizations, and systems. She's the founder and CEO of Conscious Togetherness and a founding member of the Global Compassion Coalition. Qatar is the author of Unfolding Peace, 9 leadership principles to create cultures of well-being, belonging, and peace. What an amazing title. So a deep, warm, and grateful welcome to you, Qatar. Thank you for being here. Just a few words of introduction. What does International Women's Day mean to you and being here today? Over to you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you for that warm and beautiful introduction. It's really a joy for me to be here today because, for one thing, it's about being with you. And as you described the conversations that we had, there was this immediate connection. And that space of recognition that we're in a safe space and in a space that's going to create more power, more authenticity, more growth. And then being a part of the Global Compassion Coalition has certainly been a beautiful and empowering experience for me, and I know for many others that I've been in touch with. And so I'm really grateful to be here in this space for that. And I want to say welcome to every woman who's with us today. I want to imagine us for a moment sitting together in a physical space, as if we were together in a physical space, looking into each other's eyes, looking at women and knowing that none of us are alone on our journeys, and that we all have shared struggles and shared access to inner power that we are going to expand together today, hopefully. You mentioned, why it's important for me, International Women's Day. I think as a woman, the journey to finding, owning my inner power has been a really, really complex and long one. I started with trying to find my power through fight in a very sort of old paradigm, can be called masculine way. And studied as a lawyer, thinking that I was going to create equality and thinking that I now had the tools to fight in every way, including intellectually. And life humbled me and taught me very quickly that true power is actually really, really gentle and soft. That the true power of being a human being is the power to be able to put our vulnerability at the forefront of our lives and be able to sit with someone and look in their eyes and see the impact of things on their lives, on our lives, and say, how can we make beauty from the mess that it is to be human? And I've experienced so many spaces where women come together, and the healing power that that can have cannot be understated. I think it's such a beautiful experience to sit with other women, and a lot of the shame, the guilt, the uncertainty that we carry dies when we sit together and we look at each other and we're just like, yeah, I hear you, I see you, and I'm sorry you grappled with this. It is not your fault. And yet, the way that systems can be dehumanizing, or the way that culture can take away our power, while it is not our fault, is still our responsibility to shift for ourselves, for future generations. And so, sitting here today is very much about just tapping into that gentle space within ourselves where we can be whole and be messy at the same time. There's a beautiful saying that we can be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. And giving ourselves and each other permission to be that in the world, I think is extremely powerful. And doing it on International Women's Day in 2025, where we are seeing a lot of the things that we had started to take for granted, starting to be eroded, things that we thought had become established rights, start to be shaken again, potentially taken away. I think there's no time like today to say no more.
Thank you so much, Qatar. We're going to go into even more of those challenges in a moment.
Absolutely.
It's really important, I think, for us to acknowledge and honor where we are and be as authentic as we can with, well, actually, this is really hard. Um, and also to recognize that we're all going to be in different places on this journey about being a woman, and I know we have some people in the room that are not women, and I really want to thank you for being here too, for actually demonstrating how important International Women's Day is for you too. So please know you're included, even though our language will lean towards women. Before we dive into any more of this deep thinking, I just want to say a few logisticy things so that you can all relax. I teach self-compassion, so it's really important that the brain and the body know that they're going to be looked after. So the number one thing is we won't have a break. So please, if you need to use the bathroom, Please feel free to nip away, or if you need a cup of tea, you can always take us with you and in your earbuds or something. Um, and keep yourself really comfy. We know that we learn better. Our brain will connect more deeply if we're relaxed and comfortable. So please make sure that you feel really comfortable. If you do feel comfortable having your cameras on, and it's an absolute treat for us because we love connecting with you. And as Qatar said, we're all in the same living room together right now. If we can physically imagine that we're all snuggling up on the sofa together, that's really a lovely way to be together. So we'll be going for about 90 minutes. We'll do our best to be on time, completing at half past the hour, whichever hour that is for you. Um, and we'll do our best to stick to time as much as possible, but we will have a Q&A session at the end. So if there's questions that run over, please feel free to stay and ask more questions if that's, important to you. That's absolutely fine. When it comes to your thoughts, insights, questions, please let them flow on the chat straight away. I'll do my best to guide them towards Qatar. And Rachel's brilliant at giving me a nudge and saying, "Oh, there's a question here that I think would be a good time to explore." So please feel free to share your ideas and thoughts on the chat as we go. We will have a breakout session. Now, I know some people really dislike breakout sessions, so I want to encourage you to please stay. Don't run away. You don't have to go into the breakout session. You can stay in the main room if that feels more comfortable, and we'll just explore the work together. All right, but I know it's always good for the brain to know how the event's going to run, and then you can just relax. I think that's everything. If you do have a journal, we can always start journaling during some experiences if that feels helpful for you. That's definitely I think one of the skills that Qatar will be sharing, how important journaling can be for our well-being. Lovely jubbly. All right. Have I forgotten anything, Qatar? Is there anything sensible I should have said that I haven't?
I think we've said it all. I just want to make sure for everyone who doesn't want to be on video to be okay not being on video. The recording is going to be on the website, and so if you don't want your name to appear, feel free to change your name as well. Just do whatever you need to do for self-care, for safety, and yet for full presence.
Beautifully said. Perfect. Thank you, Qatar.
Okay.
So some principles, some guiding principles around feeling safe, and they are, I think that the whole camera and the choice to be seen, to be present is one of them. Um, Ultimately, we want to have a really caring, supportive space here. We want to be as intimate as we can in a digital realm, so that you feel that you're as connected. I was speaking to a graduate of mine that I've known now for 4 years, maybe no, over 5 years now, and we've realised we still have never met, and yet there is this beautiful, deep connection. And so hopefully we can just melt any of those digital barriers that might be initially there when we start our conversations. So this is about sisterhood. This is about being together as women. And the most important thing for me is to recognize that whilst we'll explore lots of important topics, we're not here to fix anything. From a self-compassion perspective, we don't give advice. We don't, try and make better the situation from a personal perspective, but we can explore the themes and ways in which we might be able to support ourselves in moving forward. Does that make sense? It's quite a nuanced thing. So we want to absolutely be there by your side. And obviously, if there's questions, we'll explore them. We'll do our best to answer them. But ultimately, it's our personal choice as to how we move forward and take action. So, of course, ultimately remembering that this is the Global Compassion Coalition, and we are here in a compassionate embrace. So, non-judgment, supportive, kind exchanges, even if we don't necessarily agree on topics. I don't think that would necessarily happen, but we know that we can listen compassionately and respond compassionately. Is everyone happy with that? Can I see some thumbs if you're, and even if you're digital, a digital thumb that you're all happy and agreed with to start our way to be together today. Lovely, lovely. Super. Well, if it feels comfortable for you, I always like to begin this deeper work. Qatar will lead us into a really lovely heart-centered inquiry, but I'd like us to start with just a couple of minutes of meditative quiet. So just a little mini meditation, a soft landing, we would call it in self-compassion. Just to, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes or just be still, have a downward facing gaze. And we'll just spend a moment because we may have rushed here, maybe a lot of busyness in the mind. And let's just help ourselves arrive if you're comfortable to do so. So taking a nice deep breath. And as you breathe out, just allow any of the busyness of the day to gently fall away. Those deep, loving breaths into the belly, offering a signal to the mind and body and heart that we are slowing down. We can rest in the stillness and welcome ourselves to this beautiful International Women's Day event. You may like to place your hand over your heart and welcome your own precious heart here, honoring yourself for all the struggles and challenges you have faced with courage and commitment. And then gently stepping into the past and honoring, offering a deep bow to any women of the past that have helped curate the lives we live now. Maybe their struggles and challenges have created opportunities for us in this present moment. And then honoring our younger women, the young girls that will become women, the women of our future, honoring their courage to lead in the 21st century. And so drawing these threads of the past, the future, and the present together, taking a lovely deep breath, maybe offering a warm smile to yourself in appreciation for you being here today, for choosing for you, and for coming together in this beautiful circle of women, circle of beautiful humans that want to inspire healthy, compassionate, empowered action. So softly opening your eyes when you're ready and just noticing how you're feeling now. Maybe a little movement away from heady stuff into the heart and body. And you're welcome to just pop in the chat one word or phrase to name what's here for you now before we dive into some more exploration with Qatar. So there's gratefulness and belonging, inner recognition. Beautiful. Thank you. That was beautiful and grounding. Yes, it's good. I get very excited, Lynn. So when I get overexcited, I can get all the way up here and I need to come back down. Thank you. Peaceful and beautiful, contentment, grateful, community, peace, past, present, future joining. Lovely. Self-love, togetherness, peaceful and grateful. Wonderful. And this is the energy, peace and love that we can move forward in our exploration. So I'm going to hand over. Thank you, Sandra and Grace. How lovely. Handing over to you, Qatar. Let's look at the reality. I think it's good to be grounded and steady as we move into recognizing, well, what are the challenges that women are facing? Because we know there's a lot of challenge. So over to you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And thank you for that beautiful meditation leading us into this moment. Yeah. So I look at women today and some of the challenges that we face. And to be honest, I am in awe, and not necessarily in beautiful ways, of the fact that the challenges we face today are still so similar to challenges that women that have come before us faced. And I think the challenges that we face are often so hidden nowadays because women in our generation have also been taught that we have to be strong and we have to be at the forefront and we have to be leaders. And there are so many misconceptions about what leadership should look like. And it's been glorified to be often the energy of fight. It's been glorified to be the energy of driving forward, driving faster, moving faster and faster. And yet for us women, leadership is often about taking a step back. It's often about being in our heart center. And so what happens for us is a deep disconnect between the roles that our cultures ascribe to us and what we truly feel and know to be our strengths as women. The strengths that are about listening to people, about bringing different perspectives into harmony, the strengths about leading from a place of empathy, of care. And what research shows is that those very strengths are what actually improves bottom lines. And so common leadership, as we see it, is not necessarily wise leadership. Just because it's common or because it's culturally accepted or the cultural narrative that's dominant right now, it doesn't necessarily make it mainstream or wise. And so for us women, it's often we have this connection between our inner wisdom that we can call our intuition and how we need to show up in systems or how we're taught that we should show up to have power and to be able to make change. And that disconnect starts to create a lot of conflict internally for us. And that translates into sometimes fears of being visible. It translates into self-doubt. It translates into exhaustion, translates into constant insecurity. And often it translates into this sense of like leading frantic lives that we're not really sure where we're going with them. We start to feel like we have no purpose, or we lose sight of that deep connection that we have to ourselves and to others. And we find ourselves starting to look for ourselves in the midst of it all. And then, of course, we're conditioned, as you said, to be superwoman. And so we have to do everything for everyone at all times, at all costs. And I truly mean at all costs, because culture has taught us women that we need to come last. And so that very act of saying, what do I need, is a courageous act. That very act of saying, let me slow down, because there is something deep inside of me that's screaming that what I'm hearing doesn't make sense, is an act of courage. And so if we think about our theme today of leading with wisdom and courage, it really means leading in a way that is not the norm. And of course, that takes cultivating courage continuously on our journeys. It also takes attuning to ourselves, to the wisdom that we hold in our own bodies, to the wisdom that we hold in our hearts. And it means cultivating the skills for that inner power, but from a different place. And it also means being so deeply grounded in our purpose that we stop doubting who we are, our unique skills, and our unique gifts, how we are here to lead, and what we are here to lead. We often get stuck in the competition game. Culture often tells us, and this is in a way an inheritance also of patriarchies, that women have been taught that they have to compete. We have to compete for the spotlight. We have to compete for power. We have to compete for resources. And yet it is not the norm for us women to compete. Our true model of leadership is about collaboration. And we have been socialized at a young age to be able to do that. But then very quickly we start to be taught that we have to do it differently. And so we're again caught in that conflict of having to be two opposite things at the same time. And so when we think of women's leadership, I think there is so much more of that journey that's about unlearning and then relearning. Relearning what is actually life enhancing and unlearning the old paradigm ways that have been so conditioned into us that our neural pathways have practiced time and again, because that's what we think safety looks like, because that's what we think recognition looks like, because that's what we think prestige is going to be. And so, as you and I have said, Catherine, when we had our call preparing for today, the real blocks that we come up against as women are really internal, much more than they're external. And our journey to power is about continuously listening back inside of ourselves and developing the wisdom and strengthening that inner power to say, it is actually the dominant paradigm that is not making sense. It is not what we know to be true about collaboration, about bringing people together, about honoring other people's skills, whether we're working in an organization, whether we're working in a community, or we're sitting across our family around the dinner room table. We know that as women, our default is to care. And that care has often been used to tell us that it means that we're too soft. And what is true, though, is that that deep care, because of the way that we've been socialized, is often something that is used to keep us emotional and not let us go into action. And so part of our work, part of the unique challenge that we have as women, is to learn to recognize the care that we hold as a power, and then to also recognize how to strengthen our inner power to be able to meet systems, to be able to meet the different environments that we operate within as they are, and influence outcomes. And so if we look at as women, what we're really dealing with, it is stories that are generational stories of who we are, but more importantly, of who we should be. And when we listen to the stories of where we should be, what's not available to us is who we came here to be, authentically. And every human being at the end of the day, the more that we tune into who we are authentically, the more that we have not only inner power, but the ability to meet others in their authentic selves as well, because we're only able to meet others to the extent that we've met ourselves. And so whether we're sitting there leading a team of 5 people or a team of 500 people, that journey of going faster, that is what we have been taught culturally, that script of let's go faster, let's continuously move faster, is actually hurting the people that we care about. And it's hurting the bottom lines. And we see that more and more. There is lots of research that shows that, whether it's for organizations, and certainly when we look at our societies right now, it's not very hard to see. We're seeing what that style of leadership is doing to the planet. We're seeing what it's doing to our communities. And we're seeing how it's increasing at an alarming rate right now. So I just want to pause there for a moment and invite you to write in the chat what of this is resonating with you. What are some of these blocks that you might be encountering in your own life, in your own positions, perhaps in your leadership work, or even in the leadership that you aspire to step up into? And Catherine and I, when we were speaking about this, we're talking about how this is taught, how this is teaching us that acceleration, and the theme this year is about accelerating action. How the word acceleration itself can have a resonance that to us as women takes us in the wrong direction. Because if we're accelerating for the sake of going fast, then all we're doing is taking action that's not aligned, and often creating more problems and then having to turn back and come back and fix things that we didn't see at the beginning. Wisdom is about holistic action and wise action, and that comes from taking a step back, often from decelerating rather than accelerating. Because the true impacts that we look for as women is what is the win-win here? That's the impact that we look for. If I'm a woman leader within an organization, often the questions that I'm asking is, how can I ensure that the right people are in the right positions so that we're reaching the maximum outcomes that we can have with the least amount of effort and friction? This is a question that often I hear from women leaders, that I don't necessarily hear as much from male leaders. And underlying that is, again, a recognition that when we take things slower, when we align ahead of action, there is what is called effortless effort. People are more motivated, they work harder, and not harder in the traditional sense of hard, but they will be more motivated to do whatever it takes to get us to the outcome. They will work from flow. There will be less conflict. There will be less friction. And when people are empowered, they are even empowered to handle conflict. And so we don't have to stop everything because there is conflict. Whereas in our current paradigm right now, our organizations, our communities are riddled with conflict. And so one of those principles to create cultures of well-being, belonging, and peace is actually about that overlap of all these things, and how pausing, feeling, sensing, and aligning is what gives us wiser action and actually better impacts at the end of the day.
Golly, there's so much here, isn't there, Qatar? Just so much. And I'd really like us to talk a little bit more about this deceleration in a moment, because it was a bit of an aha for me. And it's still been ringing to explore that some more. It's a very, very powerful invitation. But let's just connect with some of these gorgeous people sharing what are, in answer to your question, the challenges that they're meeting. So, women are often overlooked. This culture of faster, I see it everywhere in organizations, the capitalist drive for more, it's so dehumanizing. I see so many exhausted people trying to squeeze every ounce of productivity out of themselves. We internalize that and end up doing it to ourselves. Gosh, there's so much in that alone, Lynn. We could talk for the rest of the session about that, couldn't we? And I have to be, yeah, I resonate deeply with that, and I have to actively choose not to get caught in that. because we want to make everything better and kinder, and even if the motivation is pure compassion, actually we've got to really be mindful around that. Incredible
Absolutely.
awareness. um Thank you. Pace requires practice. After a lifetime of being taught only sprint. Thank you, Linda. Sprint,
Mhm.
sprint, sprint. Yes. And it's in our education systems. It's in everything, isn't it? Who can get to the finishing line fastest? And certainly in an entrepreneurial and business world, these are really powerful. Self-doubt is a big one for me, says Bianca, for sure. And the cultural devaluation of care and listening. Couldn't agree more. Honestly, I couldn't write notes fast enough when Qatar was talking. And I think it's really interesting about an invitation. Can we stop the self-doubt? Can we stop that? Because we are weakening ourselves. Um, Very powerful. Thank you, Bianca. I always say Mother Nature is my guide. By the seasons I resonate with
Mhm.
you. All you are saying. Thank you, Qatar. Thank you, Robbie. And Eileen saying what's stuck out for me is you highlighting that the true model for women is to lead in collaboration. Yes, I wrote that one down as well, Eileen. So true that care is our inner power. And yes, we who identify as women are often told we are too soft. It's so interesting, isn't it? I wrote that down. Care equals weakness. Um, and caring is weak. And and it's just such the antithesis, and actually you're right. This is our true power. We can't really change anything unless there is deep caring for good, anyway. I would say can't change for good. And
Mhm.
then there's a few more. Gosh, there's lots now. I'll see if I can get through them all.
Yeah.
The myth of being the first generation superwomen burned me out to the point of a mental, physical, and emotional, spiritual breakdown. I'm sorry, Tony. I hear you. I had to prematurely retire in 2013. I'm still unable to handle stress and the symptoms of tasks. And I think I'm sorry that that has been your experience, but I think this is really important to name and to talk about, because I to a lesser degree did the same thing. I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be the best teacher in the world. I'm going to help all my students, and it led to burnout. And this is in
Mhm.
whatever area of leadership we are. The expectation is to, as you said, Qatar, do it all, be it all, everything. And actually, one, it's not kind, but ultimately, it will lead to a complete and utter disintegration of who we are and that power of our hearts.
Yeah,
Thank you for
absolutely,
sharing that.
Catherine. Yeah, thank you. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who shared on the chat. It's so interesting to see how, as women, we still carry all of this. And some women in the chat have written about how we've moved ahead in our generation, and yet women are still devalued. And that's exactly what we're here to say today. And I want to also take a moment and just say to everyone that's writing in the chat or that's just being with this conversation, take a moment and feel into your body. See your nervous system relaxing as you hear the experience of other women, and know that you're not alone. Because there is so much, again, there's so much power in recognizing that we are not alone. And this is, as heartbreaking as this is, there is a lot of power inside of each one of us, and certainly in us being together collectively to change all of this. And yes, the cultural narrative, the dominant cultural narrative, is still not one of care. But we are the frontliners creating those cultures of care, those cultures of belonging. And that is why it is so important that we take the time to care for ourselves, because we model the world we want to live in. And so we model within our homes, within our workplaces, we model the world that can be rather than the world that is, by bringing people together, by investing in people's strength, by showing people how to work and live differently together, by equipping people with the skills, but also with the mindset or the heart set to be together in a community and experiencing the beauty of community instead of experiencing what we're experiencing in the world right now.
Thank you so much, Qatar. And what I'd like to do is pull all these threads and the recognition of fear, doubt, toxicity, all the challenges. We will all have our own stories. And I warmly encourage you to read Qatar's book, because some of her personal stories are extraordinary, and the courage that's been required to move through all of that. What I'd like us to do is to lead us into our breakout room opportunity. And as I mentioned at the beginning, if you're not big into the breakout room, stay with us, that's fine. But recognizing that all of these challenges, the fear, the doubt, the toxicity that we may have experienced, leads us to that place of courage. And it's the courage that we know that we need. What's that brilliant quote? Vulnerability is our most accurate measure of courage. That's in Qatar's book, Brené Brown's quote. And this is where we get an opportunity to be together and be vulnerable and share these challenges, so that we can start exploring, how can I make change? So before we talk about accelerating action for ourselves and our communities, let's look at this opportunity to decelerate first. So, as Qatar has mentioned earlier, when we hear the word acceleration, we assume a push, a shove, go faster, effort in a way that is striving and certainly can trigger the stress responses. That's certainly my experience. So when Qatar suggested, well, what if we decelerated first? Deceleration is bringing healthy action, inspired action, heart-centered action, soulful action. And this is what we're here to explore a little bit more as we go into our breakout rooms. So the question we're going to invite you to explore together, you may want to write this down, is, what do you need? I know our cultures still don't positively invite us to ask that question, what do I need? But what do you need to decelerate, slow down, press pause, maybe even stop, and potentially change before you accelerate to make change? And how might this help you? So already Marilyn said we need to prioritize rest. Oh, I'm with you, my friend. Oh, I really still struggle with allowing myself to rest. I rested this morning because I was super pooped, and it's a challenge. So let's take this inquiry, this beautiful heart-centered place. Let's go into our groups and really get curious. Maybe what's my resistance to deceleration? What is my resistance to rest? What does that mean about me? You may have some really interesting reflections around your own identity if you allow yourself to decelerate instead of being a powerhouse of soldiering forward like I've been for most of my life. Let's take action. Let's do it yesterday. All right. So you can be gentle and light with your inquiry. And please know, when you go into the groups, even if you feel a little bit, I'm not sure if I should share this, please find that courage, step into your heart, share what's true for you, because you never know, it might inspire another woman, another person in the group to look through that lens for a moment and liberate them. We just don't know. So remember that this collaboration time is really, it's very powerful and can be deeply nourishing. And if you don't have much to share, you may want to simply be a compassionate listener and be inspired that way. But please do go into the group. Right, so we're going to offer you 15 minutes. So there'll be this time to really have a lovely conversation. If you can, check in with your group, depending on how many are going to be in your group together. There might be 3, might be 5. I'm not quite sure what we decided. And check to see, make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to speak if they want to. And just let it unfold. Be curious, and then we'll come back together and explore a little bit more about what you've discovered and how we can then make those stepping stones kindly into a place of wisdom and leadership. Is everyone okay? Do they know what we're doing? We're all doing next. I see those thumbs. Just check in. Thank you so much. Appreciate those. Lovely, lovely. All right. So Joel is going to work his magic and send you all out. Please take time to just spend a moment in your own heart to, how do I feel about this? What do I need? And then share. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy each other's very good company.
Enjoy.
And so if you're choosing to stay with us, you don't want to go out into that breakout room, I invite you just to spend a couple of minutes just being quiet, going inside, maybe doing a little bit of journaling and reflection, and then we can have a chat together. How does that sound? Is that all right, Guitar?
Yeah, absolutely. I think journaling is such a powerful practice. And so if anyone is not able to be in the breakout rooms or doesn't want to be, it's beautiful to just give yourself this time to reflect and just tune in. You can do it in writing, it helps a lot.